Fate chose her, but she refuses to surrender. Serenya, the beta's daughter, stands torn between duty and desire. And Kaelen, the alpha bound to her by destiny, will risk everything to make her his. This is Alpha's Reluctant Luna, a story of passion, defiance, and a love written in moonlight. You're listening to The Velvet Story, where every heartbeat tells a tale. Subscribe now and let the story begin. The days that followed passed in restless silence. The warriors whispered of the growing tension between their alpha and the beta's daughter, though none dared speak of it openly in Kaelen's presence. Serenya kept her distance, throwing herself into patrols, council meetings, and every distraction she could find. But no amount of duty or exhaustion dulled the pull she felt whenever Kaelen entered a room. It was worst at night. In her dreams, the bond roared unhindered, a river breaking through every dam. She woke breathless, skin burning, heart aching as if she had been held, truly held, only to find herself alone in tangled sheets. Her wolf no longer whispered, it demanded, it howled, it clawed. Let us go to him, end this torment. But Serenya clenched her teeth, pressing her rest to her chest where the charm still glowed faintly. The witch's spell was weakening, she knew it, yet she clung to it like a lifeline. If she surrendered now, she would never know if it was fate or her own heart that chose him. That evening, Calder announced a scouting mission. A small group of warriors would patrol the borders, checking for signs of rogues. Serenya volunteered immediately, desperate for air beyond the fortress walls. She thought Kaelen would refuse her, insist she remain behind. But instead, his silver eyes studied her for a long moment before he nodded. You'll ride with me. The words sent a shiver down her spine, though she masked it with a stiff nod. The patrol passed uneventfully, but Kaelen kept her close, his presence a constant weight at her side. He was quieter than usual, his jaw tight, his eyes scanning the forest with predatory sharpness. By the time they turned back, the moon was high, spilling silver light through the trees. Calder ordered the warriors ahead to report back, leaving Serenya and Kaelen to follow at their own pace. Serenya's stomach twisted. The air between them was too thick, too charged. They rode in silence for a while, hooves crunching softly over pine needles. Finally, Kaelen broke it. You've been avoiding me. Her hands tightened on the reins. I've been busy. Busy, he repeated flatly. Is that what you call running from me every time I enter a room? She shot him a glare. What else am I supposed to do? You make it impossible to breathe, Kaelen. Every time you look at me, every time you... She bit her tongue before the words could spill further. His gaze burned into her. Every time I what? She snapped her eyes forward. Forget it. No, he growled softly. Say it. Her chest heaved. Every time you're near, it feels like I'm losing myself. And I can't, I won't lose who I am. Not to anyone. Not even to you. Kaelen was silent for a long moment, his horse pacing easily beside hers. When he finally spoke, his voice was quieter, rougher. I don't want to take you from yourself, Serenya. I only want to be part of it. The thought of you bound to another by choice or by spell, his hand tightened on the reins, leather creaking. It would destroy me. Her throat ached, torn between anger and aching tenderness. She wanted to believe him, wanted to let herself fall,
but the fear of being caged, of being defined only as someone's Luna, someone's mate, still gripped her like chains. The path narrowed, forcing them to dismount and lead their horses single file. Pines crowded close, their branches whispering. Serenya brushed a stray needle from her cheek, only to feel Kaelen's hand catch hers. She froze. His touch was gentle, reverent, as though he feared she might break. His thumb brushed her knuckles, sparks racing up her arm. Her wolf whimpered, pressing hard against the weakening spell. "Serenya," he said softly, her name a prayer on his lips. "Tell me to stop, and I will. But if you don't—" Her breath caught. She should tell him no, she should pull away, but the word lodged in her throat, smothered by the pounding of her heart. Kaelen stepped closer, towering yet careful, his silver eyes molten in the moonlight. His other hand rose, cupping her cheek with aching tenderness. The world stilled, the bond surged. Her lips parted, and Kaelen leaned in. Her breath mingled with his, warm and quick. The world narrowed to silver eyes and the soft brush of Kaelen's thumb along her jaw. His lips hovered a hair's breadth from hers, close enough that she could feel the heat of him, close enough that her wolf howled with triumph.
Yes, at last. Ours. Her chest tightened. Every fiber of her being begged her to close the gap, to surrender, to let fate swallow her whole. The bond surged, sparks racing over her skin where his hand touched her, pulling, pulling, pulling. The charm on her wrist flared violently. Serenya gasped, the burn searing into her veins. Her wolf snarled in fury, clawing against the magic's cage, but Serenya wrenched herself free, stumbling back as though his touch were fire. "No," she cried, voice breaking. Kaelen froze, chest heaving. His hand fell to his side, fingers curling into fists. "Serenya." "Don't," she choked out, clutching her wrist. Tears blurred her vision. "I can't. Not like this." The anguish in his eyes gutted her. For a long moment, he stood perfectly still, a storm contained in flesh. She half expected him to seize her, to let his alpha dominance strip away her resistance. Instead, Kaelen closed his eyes. When he opened them again, the raw fury was replaced by something far more dangerous. Restraint. He said, his voice hoarse, "I would never take what isn't freely given. Not from you. Not ever." Her heart ached. His self-control, his willingness to hold back, even when every instinct screamed otherwise, it undid her more than any command ever could. But she couldn't give in. Not yet. Serenya shook her head, tears slipping free. "I need time." Kaelen's jaw clenched, his breath ragged. For a heartbeat, silence hung between them, thick and suffocating. Then, slowly, he nodded. "You'll have it," though the words sounded like they cost him blood. "But Serenya." He stepped back, his gaze never leaving hers. "Know this. Every time you resist, every time you run, you only tighten the bond. You only make it burn hotter." And with that, he turned, leading his horse back to the path. His broad shoulders were stiff, his movements sharp with barely contained frustration. Serenya sagged against a tree, her chest trembling with sobs she hadn't meant to release. Her wolf whimpered mournfully. "Fool. He is ours. He waits, he suffers, and still you deny him." Serenya pressed her forehead to the bark, her voice raw. "Because if I give in now, I'll never know if it's him I love or only the bond." That night, back in her chambers, Serenya stared at the moonlight spilling across her floor. Her lips still tingled from where his breath had touched them. Her skin still burned with the memory of his hands. She pressed her wrist to her chest, but the charm's glow was faint now, pulsing weakly like a dying ember. The witches had warned her, and she was running out of time.
Kaelen sat alone in the war room, the fire crackling low in the hearth. Maps and scrolls lay forgotten on the table before him, his hands pressed against his temples, silver eyes dark with torment. Never, in all his years, had he been tested so cruelly. Never had he wanted so fiercely and held back so desperately. He had thought finding his mate would be triumph. Instead, it was agony. And yet, he would wait. He would burn. He would endure. Because Serenya was worth more than any victory, any conquest. But the beast inside him whispered, restless, relentless, not forever. The bond burns stronger, the spell weakens, and the moon waits for their next choice. Will love break her or set her free? This has been Alpha's Reluctant Luna, brought to you by The Velvet Story, where fantasy meets feeling. If you're lost in their world, don't forget to like, share, and follow The Velvet Story for the next chapter, because the story is only just beginning. The Velvet Story.